Hello and welcome to Reading Tabby. My name is Tabitha. I also go by Tabby Tabs. And today is the first day of Summerween. So while Halloween is my favorite holiday and I don't need an excuse to read horror, I just engage with horror content year round, whether it's a scary movie, a scary book, a scary game. I love anything that is even remotely horror. I'm quite forgiving when it comes to horror as well, but I just love it. And this week I will be mostly vibe reading. I think I'm gonna start with A Dowry of Blood by S.T. Gibson. Well, I've technically already started. I've listened to about 2 more hours of the audiobook already today, and it's a book that I put on pause a couple weeks ago because S.T. Gibson uses the word you a lot. The main character is Constanza, and it's told from her point of view. And when she says you, she's referring to the male main character. It's different. It's not something that I've encountered in a book before, and I don't typically seek out second person POVs or second person writing in general. I like to be told a story. I don't want to be part of the story. And so this has been a little bit of a hurdle for me to get over in reading this book, but I've gotten over halfway into it now, and I'm actually quite enjoying it at this point. I really like Constanza. I am hoping that she gets her happy ending. I don't know. I don't want to say too much and spoil it, but she does have a love interest in the book, and I really like the way that their relationship is turning out at this point. So I'm hoping that it ends with a happy ending for them. It probably won't, but I'm gonna maintain hope until the end. I do like a happy ending in a story. As for what I'm reading the rest of the week, I don't really know just yet. I'm really a mood/vibe reader. I like reading whatever I'm feeling like at the moment, and I'll generally have 5 to 10 books in rotation at any one time. That way I can switch between whatever I'm feeling like at the moment. And after reading Haley Piper's The Worm and His Kings for the Summer Solstice Challenge, I am really feeling like cosmic horror now. So I do have a couple of cosmic horror books that I might pick up. One of them is Wintertide by Ruth Anna Emrys. I've had this book on my shelf for years at this point. I think it's followed me to 3 different homes now at this point. And it's one that I've wanted to read forever. I actually have a paperback, and I have it on my Kindle, and I have the audiobook. So I have high hopes that I'm going to love this because I keep buying it for some reason. Ruth Anna Emrys, you are welcome. I'm also considering Head Like a Hole by Andrew Van Wey. I got that on Audible a couple of years ago, and it's one that I look at now and then, and I don't know a lot of people who have read it, but the cover is absolutely captivating. I'll put that over here. Every time I look at it, I'm just like, God, I really want to read that. That looks so good. Kind of related to that, which gives me similar vibes, is C.G. Drew's Don't Let the Forest In, and that's another one that I'm considering. I also got that on Audible a little while ago. I haven't had it as long. I think I picked it up just over this past Christmas, and that's because Gabby reads. She just raves about this book. She loves it. It was one of her top favorites, or if not, I think it was her #1 favorite the year it came out. And then I'm also wanting to read more Stephen Graham Jones. So Stephen Graham Jones is an author who I feel like I can never predict what I'm going to think of his books. I've read a couple of his short stories and a couple novels now at this point, and I've rated them anywhere from like a 2.5/3 star to a 5 star. My all-time favorite of his The Buffalo Hunter. When I read this last summer, I was in awe. This is like masterpiece level writing. This was so well done and beautifully written, and just I was in complete and total awe while reading it. And I also listened to the audiobook. Astounding. So well done. The narrators were incredible. They really pull you in, and there are multiple narrators in the book, and they really pull you in. Good Stab's narrator was the absolute best. That was it was just so good, and I highly recommend it. However, at the same time, I really did not like My Heart is a Chainsaw. That was a series that I thought I would love when I was reading it. Jade felt like a character that I could really grow to love, and even in the first half of that book, and I was trying so hard, but she is such a difficult character to be in the mind of. She has a very, she's had a lot of trauma, and it's clearly affecting her very strongly, and that's a big part of the book. So, and it's part of the point of the book. So I'm not saying that it shouldn't be there. It was just a lot for me, and it wasn't enjoyable in any way. And so I'm more than likely not going to continue that series. I might be persuaded to, because I watch a lot of Books and Lala, and she loves Stephen Graham Jones, and she liked those books. But one of her favorites of his is I Was a Teenage Slasher. And I've had that audiobook now for a couple of years. I bought it when I bought My Heart is a Chainsaw, an audiobook. And maybe if I'd read that one or listened to that one first, I would have picked up more of Stephen Graham Jones after that. Because I have a feeling I'm going to really like this one. Everything that I bought it for a reason. I thought that I would like it. And I'm usually pretty good at judging things that I know I'll like. Obviously, I can be wrong now and then. As I was with My Heart is a Chainsaw, unfortunately. But I think most of the time I'm pretty spot on at staying in the 4 to 5 star range. So I have good feelings about that one. And that's another one that I'm going to seriously consider. As for what I'll be reading after that, I think I'm going to mainly stick to anthologies. I love a good anthology, especially a themed anthology, and I own an embarrassing amount that I have not yet read. So I should really try to get through some of those. I have one that I just bought for my birthday. My birthday was in April, and I bought a couple of anthologies for myself. I got this one at Books A Million. It was only $5, and it has a bunch of really good authors. I mean, Lord Byron is in this, Caitlin Kiernan, John Langan. Those are all excellent authors. I'm thrilled to be reading this. So I want to get through a couple of those stories. And then I also have, it's called Horror at Sea. It's an audiobook. I picked that up just before my birthday. So for my birthday, my mom took me on a cruise. She's so wonderfully generous like that. And I thought it would be really fun and kind of funny to read scary stories set at sea. And then I got on the boat, and there was some turbulent water, and I realized that there was no way I was going to be reading stories about horror at sea at that point. No, thank you. So I still have that to get through. And then I'm very lucky to have gotten the ARC for Never Whistle at Night 2, Back for Blood. And I loved the very first Never Whistle at Night. It's fully written by Indigenous authors. So it has very unique points of view. A lot of them incorporate mythology and legends, and it was just so good and such a good time. And I encountered so many new authors that I'm now following, and I'm really excited to see what Shane Hawk has in store for part 2, because if it's even half as good as part 1, it's going to be 5 stars still. So I'm really thrilled to be reading that. And I think that's it. So I hope it's a successful week. I have high hopes. I'm going into it with a positive attitude, and I think no matter how it shakes out, I will get some reading done at the end of the day and get through books that I've been wanting to get through, and I think I'm gonna have a good time. I don't know if you'll be able to hear me because it is raining cats and dogs right now. It's raining really heavy. I just stopped at the library to pick up a hold that I have for a local book club that my mom and I are in. It's a romance book club, so I just picked up Till Summer Do Us Part by Megan Quinn. I think it looks really cute. I'm hoping that this is the one that they end up choosing. I mean, not that I know what other books are going to be brought there, because everyone brings their own to be considered. But I'm excited about this one, so even if it's not picked, I might end up reading it anyways. It has nothing to do with Summerween, but I'm loving the rainy vibes. So when I get home, I'm going to be reading Head Like a Hole by Andrew Van Wey. I just started it during my lunch break at work today, and I'm looking forward to that because I think it'll be appropriately moody for the weather. Yes. Welcome to the cozy corner of my bedroom where I like to do most of my reading. This is my favorite chair. It's super comfortable, super cozy, especially on a rainy day like today. I thought it would be nice to go over some of the reading that I've done so far for Summerween and the things that I'm thinking of reading next. So the first story I managed to finish is A Dowry of Blood by S.T. Gibson. That was a hurdle for me, but in the end I realized that Gibson was using that as a way to other the character of Dracula in the story, which I thought was exceedingly clever, and that was something that I grew to admire as I got further and further into the story, and as Constanta grew more and more aware of just how unhealthy her relationship with Dracula is, especially with the introduction of new brides and people into their relationship over the years. And as culture progresses, as Magdalena and Alexei light this fire within her, awaken her to become this fully realized person. And I want to say it was a beautiful story at the end. Like, it was an awakening for these people, and I thought it was really well done. I really enjoyed it at the end. I gave it 4 stars. Next up, I finished Gremoryland Volume 2. I did want to review. I just flicked through the first Gremoryland volume real quick because I couldn't recall exactly what had happened or how it had ended, because the second one picks up not immediately after, and this is part of what was confusing about Volume 2, is the narrative transitions between scenes is not the most clear, and it left me quite confused at times, especially because there's a whole host of new characters in this story, and I'm like, who are these people? Who is this person? How do they relate to this story? And then there's just a random scene where it completely changes the time in which the story takes place. Maybe it's a different universe even. I have no idea. I feel like it's playing on the concept of the multiverse. I don't know if that's a correct hypothesis, because this book just ends. It just ends to make room for Volume 3, which I am mad at myself that I am going to read it. And I did give this 3 stars because it's a fun concept. This spooky carnival just randomly appears. It invites people to it, a group of kids, usually, around like 4 teenagers. and they don't find this suspicious for some reason, but they go to this abandoned theme park and murder happens, death and carnage ensue. And it's such a fun idea. I don't want to give it up. I think there's so much potential in this. And the art's not bad at all. It does feel a bit too cutesy at times for what the story is. And I also had issues with another story that I read for Summerween, another comic collection that I read that I'll be talking about next. And that one was a lot better. But also the art was very cutesy in that too. And that's not something that is necessarily a bad thing. I really like Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees by Patrick Hovarth. That is done in the style of Richard Scarry's Little Busy Town. And it's about a serial killer teddy bear, essentially. Like, Samantha is this really adorable bear in the woods. She lives in this cute, cozy, quaint, small town, and she's a serial killer. And the art is top-notch, stunning, beautiful, so adorable, and absolutely gruesome at the same time. I love that. It's such a dichotomy that's really interesting. But I feel like Gremoryland does not succeed with that. It just feels a little out of place. But like I said, I gave it 3 stars at the end. It wasn't terrible. I also managed to read Let Me in Your Window by Adam Ellis. It's a comic anthology of horror stories. The art is a little cutesy, a little cartoony. I wasn't really vibing with that, although I did quite like in the first story, Little Kingdom, there's a really funny panel that's a send-up of Grey Gardens. These 2 documentary filmmakers, they make Pale Manor. I thought that was quite amusing. And I'd like to have read longer versions of some of these stories. They were actually really good. There's one in particular that's very cosmic horror called Gospel of the Dead Moon. That one was super creepy. I really liked that. I wish it were longer. But overall, I give this collection 4 stars. It was a good time. And this author has other comic anthologies out there that I'm definitely going to be checking out now. Some of the other books I started this week include Head Like a Hole by Andrew Van Wey. I'm at 25% of the way into that audiobook, and I don't think I'll be continuing it, at least not right now. I'm going to put it on pause. It's more true crime thriller. It has a podcast angle. It's just not my vibes, really. I do want to give it a chance, but it's just not pulling me in for Summerween. It doesn't feel very Summerweeny. So I'm going to read something different. So earlier today, I started on my lunch break, Clown in a Cornfield 4, Lights, Camera, Frendo. I gave the first book 4 stars, the second book 3 stars, but really I think that was more like 2.5. It was very Scream 6. I was not the biggest fan of it. Book 3, Church of Frendo, I gave 3 stars. I liked that more than the second one, but not as much as the first one. The first one I gave 4 stars, so I guess book 3 is like 3.5 stars, but I gave it 3 on Goodreads. I wish they let you do half stars or quarter stars on Goodreads. But next up, for Clown in a Cornfield 4, I'm actually quite enjoying this. It's a good time. It's a film set. They're making a movie based on the crimes in the first book, which is hilarious because the first book was actually made into a film. If you've seen Clown in a Cornfield, the movie poster, that's a real movie. They actually made it out of the book. Not a bad adaptation, but not my favorite either. I am really liking this one so far, though, so I'm definitely going to continue in it. I'm 14% of the way in so far. As for what I'm going to check out next is Stephen Graham Jones' I Was a Teenage Slasher. That'll be the audiobook that I'm replacing Head Like a Hole with. I think I'll enjoy that one a lot more. Fingers crossed. managed to finish I Was a Teenage Slasher by Stephen Graham Jones for Summerween. I loved it. I gave it 5 stars. I'm so glad that it wound up being a story that I really enjoyed, because Stephen Graham Jones, like I said before, is one of those authors who I never know if I'm really going to like his work or not. He writes very stream of conscious, very tip of the tongue, tip of the mind, a little bit rambly. I feel like I speak like that, I think like that, so it feels very real, but at the same time, that sort of narrative voice really depends on the mental state of the character and how approachable, how ingestible that sort of narrative voice is. And so that's why I struggled with My Heart is a Chainsaw. Jade as a character is really hard to be in the head of, but Tully as a character was absolutely fascinating to be in the head of because of his role as this reluctant anti-hero, this reluctant slasher. Such a fun story, very meta, very different. There are, of course, stories that come from the point of view of a slasher, but I've never heard of one or read one where it's the slasher doesn't really want to be a slasher. I thought it was really interesting and really fun. I am now about 70% of the way into Clown in a Cornfield 4, Lights, Camera, Frendo. I'm really enjoying this one. It feels like a return to the first book, and I really loved the first book. It's my favorite of the series so far, but I think this one will become a close second, if not match the first one. My least favorite is still the second. Clown in a Cornfield 3, Church of Frendo, perfectly good, acceptable slasher story. It didn't feel like anything really very special, but I did like there was a character named Tabitha in that one. Love when there's characters that share a name with me because it's so uncommon. But I'm really enjoying the 4th book so far. It's very meta and it's a lot of fun. Not quite as fun as I Was a Teenage Slasher or as meta as I Was a Teenage Slasher, but it's up there. You can tell Adam Cesare is a fan of Scream. Obviously, Frendo is very much like Ghostface in that every book there's different Frendos. Different people are Frendo. And so it's always a little bit of a mystery to figure out who is responsible, who is this group that is responsible for killing this time, because it's always a group of people as well. And I always wonder how he's going to explain this, because in the 2nd book it was social media, in the 3rd book it was a cult, in the 1st book it was kind of culty as well. And so what's going to be the impetus in the 4th book for this group of people to be slashers again? I have no idea. I look forward to finding out though. I am still reading Wintertide by Ruthanna Emrys. It is a slow burn. I'm really enjoying it. I'm only about 10% into the book so far. I'm also listening to the audiobook while I read. It's a good time so far. It's so interesting. I really like this world. It's set in the 1940s New England area. Arkham exists in this world. Miskatonic University exists in this world. The main character, Afra, is a descendant of the Deep Ones. Her ancestors worshipped Cthulhu, and this is somehow all going to relate to a mystery at Miskatonic University that she's invited to help investigate. I'm really looking forward to seeing where this goes. Like I said, I'm still really early into it, but I am enjoying it so far. Also, when I was holding this book up, I realized that it still has the price tag sticker on it showing that I bought this book for $40 in 2018. So I had high hopes, because to buy a book at full price, brand new, I don't often do that unless I'm really loving the author, the story, or I feel like it's going to be a really good fit for me. So Ruthanna Emrys opens Wintertide with a quote from H.P. Lovecraft that, no worries, does not contain any of his bigotry. But I did want to share this. It's a poem from The Bells, Fungi from Yoggoth. Year after year I heard that faint far ringing of deep-toned bells on the black midnight wind, peals from no steeple I could ever find, but strange as if across some great void winging. I searched my dreams and memories for a clue, and thought of all the chimes my visions carried, of quiet Innsmouth where the white gulls tarried around an ancient spire that once I knew. That is so vibey for this story. I love that. I love when a book starts and opens with a quote from something that really inspired it. I don't know, it just helps set the vibe and tone of the story, and I love it. I am now halfway through Wintertide, maybe a little bit more than that. I've been reading and listening to the audiobook because I did have to clean a bit today and I built a new bookshelf, which is very exciting to me. I'm enjoying the atmosphere in this. It's melancholy, it's eerie, the mystery is starting to unravel. There are a couple of side mysteries, side stories that are going on, and they're starting to come across as bigger than the what the book blurb talks about. And I'm wondering what the climax is going to be like. So this is keeping me going for sure, even though it is a slow burn. But I like a slow burn mystery sometimes, especially when it has as interesting of a setting and mythology as this book has. Because again, I just love eldritch anything. Cosmic horror is my favorite, and this is very much cosmic horror vibes. I love it. So I finished Wintertide by Ruthanna Emrys, and I also learned that this is actually the second book in a trilogy. The first book is called The Litany of Earth. It's a novella. I did not know that it existed. I did know the sequel exists because I bought it at the same time I bought this audiobook. I bought the sequel audiobook as well. That one's called Deep Roots. But I don't think that you need to read the prequel before reading this one. This one really stands on its own. It does a lot of world building. It explains Afra, who she is to you. It's a story that turns H.P. Lovecraft's The Shadow over Innsmouth on its head, whereas in his story, those people that are descended from the Deep Ones, the local Innsmouthers, they're seen as these frog-like monsters because they have aquatic attributes, physical attributes, like they might have gills or webbed fingers, fish teeth, bulging eyes, receding hairline, thick necks, things that make them look more fish-like, essentially. And because of their physical appearances, they're deeply distrusted, they're hated. In H.P. Lovecraft's story, he essentially says that they deserve to be in concentration camps. And Ruthanna Emrys must have read that, and she was like, but, and in her story, it takes place decades after those concentration camps, and Afra and her brother are two of the only survivors, and she is a descendant of a Deep One. And in this story, Emrys essentially puts forth the idea that, or the point, I should say, that they are just like anyone else. They're not evil. They're just normal people. And they just have different cultures, customs. Maybe they look different. Maybe they have a different history, but they still live on this planet with humans, and they're just like any other human in that they just want to live their life in peace with their family. You know, and it's a deeply compassionate story. You see a lot of this so the whole point of the story is Afra is invited by this FBI agent to join this case where they're investigating a Russian spy at Miskatonic University looking to steal Innsmouth magic from the Miskatonic archives in order to facilitate some body swapping to, you know, topple governments and such. And Afra is invited to investigate the Miskatonic archives to find this magic before the spy does, essentially. And while doing so, she comes across her diary. So after the Innsmouthers were put into concentration camps, the Miskatonic University went into Innsmouth and they essentially stole everything. They stole their history, they stole all their writings, their artifacts, and they put them in their archives at the university library. And Afra and her brother, even though they are from Innsmouth, they've never been allowed to go there or to look through the archives, even though her own diary is in there. It was heartbreaking. I really liked how Emrys went about telling this story and flipping that they're not monsters on its head. It was so well done, and I also really like that there's more than just that going on. Afra has her own motivations. I don't want to spoil it, but she's looking to achieve her own goals in going through these archives. She's looking for specific magic, and I just loved this. This was everything I wanted it to be. It's set in the world that H.P. Lovecraft created that I love, with the mysteries and all the magic and the old gods. I love that story. I just never obviously liked all the bigotry that he puts in his fiction, or that he put in his fiction. Obviously he's not still around. But I really like when authors embrace that world and they show a different side of it. And Ruth Ann Amherst really did well with that. I gave this 5 stars, and I'm 100% going to be reading the sequel, and I will be going out to buy the prequel. It is the last day of week 1 of Summerween, and I have finished my last 2 books for the week. I finished Statues by Junji Ito. I gave this 3 stars. I think I found most of the stories to be kind of meh. Not bad, just again, a lot of classic ghost stories. There were a few in here that stood out. The first story in the book, Red Thread, that one I really liked. That was different. I think that's based on Japanese story of Shinenbari, which I'd never heard of before. That was new to me, and so I really liked reading that one. I really liked The Town with Maps. That one had a liminal space vibe to it that I really enjoyed. It's about these tourists. They arrive in a town where there's maps everywhere, and they come to find out that the citizens that live there, they eventually lose all sense of direction and cannot function without the maps. It's spooky and eerie and unsettling. I really liked that one. But overall, the collection was just okay. I do really like this cover still. The actual title story, Statues, was also not a bad one. And then I also managed to finish Clown in a Cornfield 4, Lights, Camera, Frendo. I really enjoyed that one. It was 4.5 stars for me. I think I liked it better than the first book even. And it's really a return to form. It's a return to the vibes of the first book. There's humor in this one. It doesn't feel as mean or as angry as books 2 and 3 did. Book 2 especially really felt kind of mean and angry. And this one is definitely just fun. It's set back in Kettle Springs. We have Rust and Cole have returned. Jerry's returned. We have a new cast of characters in the film's cast and crew. And I love a lot of these new characters as well. Obviously, not everyone sticks around till the end. Not going to spoil who's there, but I really liked the new final girl. I thought she was amazing. You'll probably be wondering where Quinn is. We do get a little update on Quinn's situation. And I just loved this. It was everything I wanted it to be. Not a perfect novel by far, especially after reading I Was a Teenage Slasher, which is also a meta slasher like this one, but done so much better. Again, so much better. It's a difference between a 4.5 stars versus 5 stars. I loved them both, to be honest. I really did. But I think this was a really successful week of reading. I love a good scary story, and I read quite a few of them this week. So I really enjoyed myself, and I'm looking forward to Summerween Part 2 when Gabby Reed starts her Summerween challenge this weekend. I will be participating in that as well. And thank you for joining me. I look forward to talking more books with you in the future. Bye.